Today, the Biden administration says they have reached a deal to ease the supply chain disruption. A judge blocks United Airlines from suspending employees over the vaccine mandate, and Joe Rogan blasts CNN. We have a lot coming up today, and you are not going to want to miss our guests. It all starts right now. Hey, welcome to the news and why it matters. I am Sarah Gonzalez, and I am a little bit nervous today. All right, I'm excited, but I'm also nervous because I have two gentlemen on the program who are apparently really good friends, and both just, you don't know what to expect from either of them. So on their maiden voyage on the show, on his maiden voyage on the show, we have Dave Raboy, who is a fellow at the Claremont Institute and also writer over it's Late Republic Nonsense.
Late Republic Nonsense.
At Substack.
At Substack.
Yes. So glad to have you on the program.
Great to be here.
No pressure, just don't screw it up.
I will not.
Okay, great. And then he's not on his maiden voyage on the show, but it's been a while. We have Michael Malice, host of You're Welcome, also author of The Anarchist Handbook.
That's correct.
Which they can find where?
At anarchisthandbook.com.
There you go. This is going to be, I don't know, just judging by our off-camera conversations.
I
I'm a
thought
little
you were a
worried.
senior fellow. What happened, Dave?
What happened? I got demoted.
Oh, I'm very sorry for you.
Was it something you said?
It was something I said. Yeah. It was doing the show.
Oh my! Well, we're
canceled.
sorry.
I got canceled. Even before we did the show,
They just knew
they were
it.
just like, no, you can't.
They just knew it. They saw it on your schedule and they said, we're demoting you immediately.
Yeah.
All right. So I'll be interested to get y'all's thoughts on the headlines of the day. So the White House announced that Joe Biden has reached an agreement with leaders in Los Angeles and union workers to ease supply chain disruptions by keeping the ports of Los Angeles open 24/7. Obviously there is a large bottleneck. There are a lot of boats that cannot come in, drop off their goods. I know earlier on Twitter today it was trending empty shelves Joe. So people are definitely, the American people are noticing all of the supply chain disruptions. Let's listen to Joe Biden. I believe this was yesterday. Let's listen to Joe Biden talking on this agreement that the White House has reached. Watch.
But now we need the rest of the private sector chain to step up as well. This is not called a supply chain for nothing. This means that terminal operators, railways, trucking companies, shippers, and other retailers as well. Strengthening our supply chain will continue to be my team's focus. If federal support is needed, I will direct all appropriate action. And if the private sector doesn't step up, we're going to call them out and ask them to act. Because our goal is not only to get through this immediate bottleneck, but to address the long-standing weaknesses in our transportation supply chain that this pandemic has exposed. I might add, parenthetically, one of the reasons why I think it's very important that we get the infrastructure plan passed, my infrastructure plan. And that supply chain system is almost entirely in the hands of private business. The world has changed.
Okay, so I want to get your thoughts on this, but just for reference, the ports obviously are points of entry for 40% of all shipping containers that reach the United States. So a very, very large a very, very large amount. And they haven't had enough manpower. There have not been enough people that are working there to be able to unload everything and make sure that the supply chain runs. By the way, in June, Biden created the Supply Chain Disruptions Task Force to study and develop solutions. So it's good that they have been working so hard on this that now we've got even more of a problem. So it's a great task force.
Why does he always go left? If you notice, he's never going right.
He should have had a V8.
He's not going. He should have had a V8. Yeah. No, but he's moving to the left.
He's definitely
always.
going left. Yes.
Yeah. But it's a weird thing that he's never going right. It's not like he's exactly off balance.
Yeah.
But he's kind of off balance. He's.
I think
it did make me nervous.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there he goes.
And each time it's a little bit more.
I think there's another story behind Empty Shelves Joe, which is basically that shoplifting has been decriminalized effectively in San Francisco and New York. I'm sure you guys have seen New York posted a piece where the DAs, with changes to the bail laws, you can go in, openly steal. There's infinite videos of this on social media. People come in, thieves with bags full of
Under like $900.
Yeah, and they just fill them up.
what you
No
want.
one says anything. They leave, and even when they get arrested, I think one guy got arrested like 48 times. They just have a revolving door. In fact, it got to the point where that school shooter made bail that day, and he got kicked out. I don't know if that's related at all, but this is basically this new approach to crime. When that happens, if it makes retailers, mom and pop shops, or even corporate retailers increasingly go out of business. If you go to CVS, Walgreens, wherever the local store might be, a lot of these items are now behind a key. You have to get an employee. If that's the case, why would I do that instead of shopping through Amazon? So what we're seeing over the last year is a sustained attack on small, medium, and now large business to centralize things in the internet. And it's a lot easier for our nation's economic elites to control things on an online space than it is on an independent mom and pop and bigger outlet personal space.
And politically too, they drove the mom and pop businesses out. Everyone's relying on Amazon. I mean, this is my nightmare scenario, is that DeSantis does something great and Bezos says, you know what, Florida, you don't get Amazon.
Oh.
And
why wouldn't they?
hell breaks loose.
Why wouldn't they? Of course he would do it. Bezos would do it.
Listen, he would do it
in a second, and he'd be right to do it.
But the state would buckle.
Of course they would.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if Facebook and Twitter feel comfortable blocking a sitting president from social media, let's suppose the sitting president, whoever he is, right, is saying things that are inflammatory. It is extremely important for this populace to be able to know what this crazy person is saying. To censor someone who's in a position of power, who's saying things that are dangerous, is even more dangerous, and they feel comfortable doing that. So we just saw this also with our Governor Abbott, where he was defying President Biden's mandate and saying he's not going to allow companies to enforce it. And they said, sorry, Greg, we're going to have to go with what the big boys are saying in Washington. So we are seeing this increasing, talk about the supply chain. There's a kind of you're going to have an issue on federal level, you're going to have an issue on a state level, and I think this is going to keep increasing, God willing, and speed us up along toward what we all want, which is national divorce.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see another way, which, by the way, everyone should go read your Substack. You have a column about, is it time for a national divorce, which Michael just, spoiler alert, just answered the question, which is, I think, yes. Not because we want it to be, but because there's just no other options left.
I want it to be.
Oh.
Well, I mean, you want it to be. I wouldn't mind it. I
don't want it to be a painful thing, though.
Think that's
but
where
it's painful.
going.
The status quo is painful.
I agree.
But that's where it's going eventually, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I think the point I made in the piece is nothing lasts forever. The United States, at some point, the United States will collapse. Whether it's economic, who knows what it could be. But it's finite.
And we've also collapsed every 70 years. The Civil War was clearly collapsing what the status quo was, whether you like it or not.
Yeah.
And the New Deal and the Great Depression was certainly economic collapse. So we've had these waves every 70 or so years, which we're past due now. It's been 90 since the Great Depression, where America basically reorganizes and looks unrecognizable for what had been a few years prior.
It's a different regime.
And now we're at that point where I think we're not talking to each other, we're talking past each other. And from my perspective, something very healthy, because I'm not interested in having conversation any longer about my freedoms and having them being voted away. I want to be free, and I'm not going to talk to people who are interested in making me unfree.
Well, and it's not just interested in making you unfree, but I mean, they genuinely hate you.
Oh, yeah, correct.
Like, they genuinely hate you and wish you didn't exist.
Yeah.
And I finally got to the point, too, where I'm like, I don't really want to come back together with people who hate me. I just don't.
And you could wish them well, but it's like, okay, go live your life. I'm going to live my life. You know what you want? Your control over our kids, your control over me being safe in my home, your control over what I say on social media. That you're entitled to your opinion, but I'm entitled to leave and say goodbye and good luck.
Right.
You know what, though? Even having this conversation at all and bringing up the words national divorce sort of forces you, I mean, this is why I did the piece, because it pushes you in a direction where you have to confront these things. And the top thing that you have to confront, I think, is we need parallel institutions to be built. Yeah. And guess what? They're never going to be built unless there is a dire need. Yeah. Because it's not easy to do it. It's really hard. You know?
So we need a new Jeff Bezos.
We need a new everything.
Yeah.
You know, we need new insurance companies that will cover reasonable things as opposed to, unreasonable things.
Yeah. I agree with you. And I think that it's hard for conservatives. We just get in this kind of nerdy mindset where we're just so focused on numbers and statistics and all these things. And everyone says, well, someone really should create an alternative. And then no one really feels called to do it. Like they're raising their families, they've got their jobs they're working hard on, and nobody feels called to do it. And by the way, I'm speaking as someone who I put my money where my mouth was. Yeah. I started a cosmetics brand, and I had several of my viewers, several of my fans, not just the one, Michael, the one fan that I have. I had several of them who were like, why are you selling cosmetics? That just cheapens everything. And I'm like, you guys, it's bigger than that. It's bigger than that. If you want to affect change, you have to affect the culture. You have to get there. You can't just keep telling people about tax money and, statistics and think that you're going to affect them. You're not going to. You have to help with the culture.
Mitt Romney as president wouldn't have saved America, right? So this idea that the Republican Party is going to be a vehicle to give your values is nonsensical. As I said to Glenn earlier on his podcast, Mitch McConnell is always going to be much closer to Nancy Pelosi than he is to the Republican base. And here's at one point, and we're here obviously at the Blaze, when Roger Ailes created Fox, and he's obviously a very kind of mixed figure, they're still having meltdowns because Fox was #1 for years, and the fact there was any alternative at all not only was something unconscionable to them, but he won. So what I think people don't appreciate, conservatives especially, is just how weak the enemy class is. They've been at this for a very, very long time, so they have the momentum. But in terms of being impressive personalities, it's a joke.
It's none of the people that it's the descendants of the descendants of the descendants of the people who built those things.
Right.
So it's pretty decadent.
You can't look at Joe Biden and regard him as a symbol of an empire at its height. Compare him to Woodrow Wilson or FDR. I mean, FDR could walk circles around him and the guy had polio.
Well, I mean, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, and it's a great point that you made about culture in the context of the cosmetics company.
Right.
Because too many folks on the right think, they say take back the culture, which I think is kind of silly because we never had it, in a meaningful sense. But they think about it like, okay, we have to make some movies, we have to make pop culture things. It's not about pop culture things.
Right.
It's about things like cosmetic brands. It's about beer
it's
companies.
both.
I mean,
but it's bigger than just the usual things that we think about.
Or you could just keep giving your money to people who hate you.
Right, and who are going to fund it to turn your kids against you.
Right, exactly. Because I don't know if anyone's noticed, but they have control of all of our institutions now, and
but
they're
they always
indoctrinating
have.
your
That's
children.
the thing. They've had control for a long time, but only now do we have the ability to point out that they've had control. This has been going on for over 100 years.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a fair point. All right, let's do this. Let's go ahead and break a little bit early because I want to get into the vaccine mandate conversation, and I want to make sure that we have enough time to do that. First, we want to thank our sponsor, Omega XL. So if you are one of many Americans, you just live in constant pain. And no, I'm not talking about like a spouse that's a pain in your butt. I'm talking about actual pain within your body. You know that it can affect your whole life. It can affect your mood. It can affect everything. So what you don't realize is it's probably inflammation that is causing that pain. So you could rub a topical cream on it and you're like, wow, this feels really awesome for 10 minutes, and then you're back to hurting again. Don't do that, all right? Try Omega XL. It is backed by 35 years of clinical research. It attacks the inflammation. It is the root cause of your pain, and it is an essential fatty acid combination from the waters of New Zealand, which many men, I have two men here, so I'm going to be sexist for a second, many men would say, if it's natural, it doesn't work, and you would be wrong. I'm just letting you know you would be wrong.
Oof.
You got to try it. You got to try.
It's natural, and it's an anti-inflammatory.
Yes.
Natty reacts only.
It's made from New Zealand water.
Yes. Yeah. Doesn't that sound amazing?
Okay, hook me up.
Okay, all right, let's do
try
it.
Yeah,
okay, great. All right, so order Omega XL now. Get a second bottle for free if you go to omegaxl.com/news. That is omegaxl.com/news. A federal judge extended the ban on United Airlines putting employees on paid leave for seeking exemptions to the airline's vaccine requirement. So what United did, for those of you who missed it, what United did was they said, well, yes, you can in fact seek a religious exemption for our mandate, but it's just that we're going to put you on unpaid leave. So which I don't find to really be an exemption.
Right.
Like, I guess you can maybe keep your spot, but you're not going to have money to put food on the table for your family. But what was this? Yesterday, 2 days ago, U.S. District Judge Mark Pittman ordered United to pause its plans to put unvaccinated employees on paid leave. And they said the court now concludes it is necessary to issue this temporary restraining order to avoid risking irreparable injury and to maintain the status quo in this case, pending the court's hearing and resolution. 6 employees had filed a federal lawsuit against the airline in response to the mandate, arguing that the company failed to provide reasonable accommodations for those who do not desire a vaccine, and that that United's decision violated the Americans with Disability Act and the Civil Rights Act. I want to throw into this topic. I want to throw this one in too as well. Also, TSA official said in an interview yesterday that 40% of TSA's workforce remains unvaccinated ahead of a November 22nd deadline set by the Biden administration. I can't possibly fathom that, like, if they have not gotten it yet, how many of them are going to go out and get it? And what is going to happen when 40% of TSA's workforce, they say, can't come to work?
And 2 minutes ago, we were talking about the supply chain. So it's really
Right.
amazing. If you're
Right.
worried about
Yeah,
the
yeah,
supply
yeah.
chain, you need to loosen whatever spigots you can
Right.
to make sure that people can get to work. And we hire people maybe even are less qualified or less experienced to make sure they're in those jobs that move people around and move objects around. So they're really going at counter purposes, which always happens when you have central planning, because you have different agencies who have different motivations. They're going to fight each other. I think it's going to be absolutely hilarious to watch what falls out. What's especially hilarious is the police, which I'm certainly no fan of, have told Mayor Lightfoot in Chicago that, screw you, we're not going to get through this. And she's like, well, we're prepared to see what happens if they follow through on this threat. You weren't prepared even if they were there.
Right.
So,
Right.
as someone who recently fled the failed state of New York City, I am perfectly delighted to see what happens when Chicago goes further into bedlam, while the rest of us can sit here safely in the glorious nation of Texas eating our popcorn.
Yeah, I mean, the city of Miami just canned its police chief, who was, a heralded great progressive police chief.
That's right.
Because he threatened the cops and said, if you don't get vaccinated, then, you'll be suspended, blah, blah, blah. He was gone. He was gone. He also said, admittedly, he also said the Cuban mafia runs Miami.
He said the quiet part out loud.
Right. Which is like,
but this is something that conservatives don't appreciate. I'm sorry, I didn't want to interrupt you. Are you done?
No. I mean, it's that, and then also in L.A.
Yeah,
you had the same thing, and I mean, these guys aren't right wingers by any means, and probably they're all vaccinated. They all love the vax, and I think they say that in interviews. But they're like, they know what happens when you break the supply chain.
Yeah.
Of law enforcement or other folks. I mean, the airlines are the airlines are apt to follow what the government says probably more than any other industry, because they're just waiting for bailouts all the time.
Right.
What conservatives might not appreciate is that, if you look at school teachers, how often they assault kids, nothing happens to these people. They just get paid leave. The job of a union is to make sure you don't tell me what to do.
Right.
I can basically have no consequences for complete misbehavior in my job. Right. And in this context, it's working out in a hilarious way. It's like, we want you to do X, and there's going to be plenty of people who are just like, nah, you can't tell me what to do.
Right.
Come at me. And the unions have the power, and their job is to back up no matter how despicable their employees are. I don't think they're being despicable in this context.
Right.
And make sure they have that freedom. So to see them go head to head with the political class is something that's hilarious. And I think the political class will buckle, because we saw when Biden issued his federal mandate, he exempted the postal workers, who, if there's one group who you should be worried about spreading disease, it's the guys who go to literally everyone's house door to door physically.
Yes.
That's a great point. Well, and also, I mean, Joe was like Union Joe, right?
Yeah,
he's like middle class Joe, and he's supposed to
Scranton
be
Joe.
relatable, right?
Yeah.
To all of these unions, and all he's done is just pissed all of them off. I mean, all the oil and gas workers, as soon as he came into the presidency, were like, "What the hell, guy? I thought you were on our side."
Right.
And I think maybe the teachers' unions is still impressed with him, but
teachers
that's about
union
it.
owns this administration.
Right.
Oh, yes, for sure. And the
straight up.
They're
Democratic
writing
Party,
the CDC guidance for things at this point. Speaking of students and teachers, Joe Biden also made a statement on making the vaccine available for 5 to 11-year-olds so that you parents could sleep better at night knowing that your tiny child who is not at risk over this disease is jabbed. Watch.
Now, I know parents out there are anxiously waiting for a vaccine for children ages 5 to 11. The good news is the FDA and outside experts from the CDC are set to make its determination as to whether the vaccine will be authorized for that age range in the next few weeks. If authorized, we are ready. We have purchased enough vaccines for all children between the ages of 5 and 11 in the United States. And it'll be convenient for parents to get their children vaccinated at trusted locations, and families will be able to sleep easier at night knowing their kids are protected as well.
I mean, this is criminal at this point. This is absolutely criminal. It was criminal before, but to involve children and scare parents at the level that this administration has done
nothing.
it, based on absolutely nothing. In fact, the statistics that they have show the exact opposite, yet they're still pushing forward with this. No one wants to talk about the conflict of interest.
You guys are missing the long game. This is one step forward, whether by intent or by accident, in getting children to be injected with hormones if their parents are opposed to it. Because now you're already setting the precedent that if mom and dad don't like it, it's too bad. We get to inject this kid because of certain things. And that is absolutely, whether Biden thinks of this or not, and I don't think he's thinking about this, his mind's not there, but this is certainly going to be leveraged in the future by activists in this regard, and you can't expect them to do otherwise.
Yeah, I mean, they had already laid the groundwork for that when they are, some states are allowing children to get abortions without their parents even knowing. So I know that they're setting the groundwork for that. It's crazy to me that there are enough parents that will go along with that. Because, I mean, we just talked on the show, I think it was last week, about the family, I forget what state they were in, the family who, 2 adults, 2 children, they went into a pharmacy to get their flu shot, and the pharmacist accidentally gave all of them full adult doses of the COVID vaccine. And the 2 children, who were young children, are now having heart issues and having to visit a cardiologist. So it's like at the same time that just happened, they're pushing this on our children, which, by the way, the FDA already had to put a warning label on these that it could cause heart issues in young people.
But why is this any crazier than having conservatives let the government raise their kids in government schools, which has been going on for decades? So if you ask me which is crazier, to have a shot which very rarely has negative effects, or to hand over your kids every morning, drop them off for some radicals to teach their kids to despise their family's values and to despise many of the things that make America great.
Every day for nearly 2 decades.
And so which of those two is crazier? I think it's a very obvious choice, and conservatives sit on their hands. Thankfully, there's an increased movement towards having the money follow the student instead of following the system, and homeschooling has gone through the roof as increasing numbers of parents, regardless of political orientation, have watched these TikTok videos and other things on social media and realized, I do not want this lunatic coming in anywhere close to my child, let alone being put in a position of power and education over them.
Yeah, finally.
Social media has been great for this.
Yes.
This is like the great blessing of social media, which is it lets you see crazy people, and it demystifies expertise and authority.
Yeah. Let's play one more thing related to COVID-19 and the vaccine. Joe Rogan had CNN medical expert Sanjay Gupta on the Joe Rogan Experiences podcast. I don't know why Sanjay Gupta agreed to do this.
Because he had a book that just came out October 5th. So let me explain how this works.
Yeah, please, tell me.
So,
because you are a Joe Rogan veteran.
Only 5 times. You've never been?
No. Could you put in a good word?
Maybe for Glenn. So this one's a lost cause. Never. So what happens is the publisher is, this is a big get, obviously. Rogan moves books. I mean, his audience, there's such a big difference between doing a big hit on, let's suppose, ABC and having a 30-second segment as opposed to 3 hours where you get to know the author and get to know the personality. And I can tell you from personal experience, I'm not the only one anyone who's done this. As soon as you leave that room, because it's a very intimate set, you think to yourself, oh crap, what did I just say? Because for 3 hours you can't be on, and Joe is a very cordial person.
Right.
And the thing with people who are apparatchiks at CNN, they're never forced to have to argue or to defend their position because they're in a bubble where they're basically everyone there has been pre-approved to be kind of contrarian with the furthest right person there is going to be Bill Kristol. He's never going to have any kind of so to have him go on and then Joe completely made. Are we going to play the clip?
Yeah.
Okay,
one of them.
Shut up.
One of
Yeah.
them. Okay.
This is
All
the
right.
one.
So then let's go ahead and play one of these clips. There are a few circling on social media. You got to check the other ones out because they're great. But here's Joe Rogan asking Sanjay Gupta, "Does it bother you that your news network lies?" What?
Do you think that's a problem, that your news network lies?
Well, I don't.
Dude.
What did they say?
They lied and said I was taking horse dewormer. First of all, it was prescribed to me by a doctor. Along
they
with
shouldn't have said
a
it was
bunch of other medications.
If you got a human pill, because there were people that were taking it, the veterinary medication, and you're not, obviously.
Why?
You
Why
got it
was
from a
that?
doctor, so that it shouldn't be called that. Ivermectin can be a very effective medication for parasitic disease, and as you say, it's probably, I think what, 250 million people have taken it around the world.
More,
I get that.
way more.
So
way more. Billions of people have taken it.
Can I just come back to the one I want to talk about? Two things on the ledger.
You have, before we get to that, does it bother you that the news network you work for out and out lied, just outright lied about me taking horse dewormer?
They shouldn't have said that.
Why did they do that?
I don't know.
You didn't ask? You didn't think that was you're the medical guy over there.
I didn't ask. I should have asked before coming on your podcast.
But they did it with such glee.
No,
yes,
Joe.
they did. I watched.
Now all of a sudden,
look at this. So he had to go back on Don Lemon. So CNN, if they had their druthers, like in wrestling, you pretend that this never happened.
Yeah.
Rogan's audience is too big for them to sweep it on the rug. Don Lemon said, well, it's true that ivermectin is used as a horse dewormer, but that's like saying you fed your baby cat food when you meant milk. Because cats drink milk.
Right.
So it's completely, they did not say this is one of its uses.
No.
They said, they identify it as, and he didn't use the horse version, he used the human version. So now on social media, it's hilarious because the argument is, did CNN lie or were they misleading? And if your brand is to be the news and these are the two choices, it looks very bad. And you can see he felt like an ass when he went back on CNN because he had to backpedal completely. And if you're saying two different things within 24 hours, you're not, one of those two is a lie.
Yeah, but look, in defense of, I'll say, in defense of whoever thought it was smart to put him on the show, and I think it was smart to put him on the show. Totally. Rogan has so many viewers.
Yeah,
sure.
That, he's got so many viewers. Gupta's got a book out. These books sell no copies.
Right.
If he sells 5,000 copies from Rogan's show, then he's ahead.
But do you know what else is? Sorry.
And this is not, it's not.
He'll still go back to CNN.
He's not talking to your audience. The
yeah.
CNN people are not watching it.
Right.
The CNN people are watching Rogan. Rogan goes across the whole spectrum. But here's what's hilarious. Going forward, those publishers are still going to push the CNN people's books to Rogan, and CNN is going to tell them they can't go on. So this is going to be a huge source of conflict between people who work at CNN
and people who want to
sell books.
Yeah.
And any kind of internal strife between the enemy class is something that's just glorious for America.
I love that. Yeah. All right, we gotta take a break real quick, but let's first thank our sponsor, Built Bar. So I don't know if you guys noticed, but this guy works out. You work out. I'm sure. So I gotta let you try a Built Bar. Have you ever tried one?
No, I would love to.
Okay,
Let's go.
They're really good. Do you like chocolate? I have some in my room.
Really?
Yeah. Do you like chocolate?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So they're protein bars. They're covered in 100% chocolate. They're low in calories. You may need a couple of them. Okay.
Yeah,
I don't know what kind of program you're on, but like he's got some giant guns here. But
I'm shy.
It's okay. Well, sorry, I didn't mean to make you blush. But they're low in calories, high in protein. They taste like you're eating a candy bar. It feels like you're cheating on your diet, but you're not.
Regimen. Right. Men have a regimen.
Yeah.
Women have diets.
Sorry.
I'm
It
hungry
feels
now.
like you're
Can I
cheating on your
have one now?
Benjamin.
Yeah, there you go.
I'll see if they can go get you one during the break.
It's okay.
So you can go to built.com. You can choose a mixed box, and you'll get 2 of each of their regular 9 flavors. Pick which flavor you like the best, and then stock up on it. You can thank me later. Go to built.com. Use promo code NEWS15. You'll get 15% off over at built.com. All right, let's talk John Gruden, and I want to say this before I want to give a preface before we get into it. I had a couple people who we talked about this. I led with this on the show a couple days ago when all of this broke, when John Gruden resigned, and people were like, "What do I care that this is happening? I don't watch the NFL," and I'm like, "You got to dig a little deeper than that, guys, because." It's not about the NFL. It's about how cancel culture is affecting people, and it could change your life in an instant, and you could just be erased from society like that over something that really, I think you don't deserve to be erased from society on. So John Gruden, the latest on him, obviously, as I mentioned, he resigned as head coach of the Vegas Raiders because there were reports of all of these years-old emails in which he used language considered racist, homophobic, sexist. And shortly after that, I thought it was funny too.
Who doesn't? Who doesn't send emails like that?
Thank you. And that's the thing is, A, it's very relatable because everyone has said something inappropriate from time to time. But B, what really gets me on that is that he wasn't even a part of, he wasn't a target of the investigation. He didn't work for the Washington Redskins. He wasn't part of the actual investigation originally. He just happened to have emails that they pulled as part of the investigation. And I think the word on the street is that Roger Goodell was like, I don't like what he said about me. You should look into those emails more. Wow. And then they found all of the rest of his emails and decided that they were going to cancel him over it. So that just rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah, of course, it's terrible. I mean, I'm not a sports fan.
You don't do sportsing?
I have no idea who this guy was until this story broke.
Yeah.
But I read it and I thought, okay.
Yeah.
What's wrong with this? I mean, obviously now I know what's wrong with this in today's
but you're like,
insane environment.
if you had an eye into everyone's private conversations, no one would be allowed to survive.
Can I put out my tinfoil hat?
Hold on.
Oh.
Let me give the update
please.
on this, and then I want you to please put on your tinfoil hat. So the latest is that Madden 2022, the game, has already decided that they are going to remove John Gruden from the entire game, and they're just going to replace him with a generic likeness. So he's been removed from the entire game.
He's going to be replaced with he's going to be replaced with a woman of color.
Right. He was never here. He was never here.
It's very Stalinist.
Woman of color.
But the thing I think we might not appreciate is not a lot of times, but sometimes when people get canceled or fired, this just gives them a corporate organization cover to fire someone they otherwise would want to cover and not avoid a lawsuit this way. So it's not always a stupid decision on their part. I know this happened in publishing when Judith Regan published O.J. Simpson's memoir, If I Did It, where he basically confessed to murder Nicole, and they fired her over it. It's because there were other things behind the scene, and this gave them public cover to do it.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Sure, but on the other hand, looping back to what we discussed before.
Yeah.
Circling back,
we can loop. What's wrong with a loop?
Leftist circle, right-wing loop.
Yeah, loop.
Yes. We emphatically loop back to building and having institutions of our own. I mean, I'm not saying go build our own NFL, but build your own damn NFL. I mean, the Madden game. They're going to do this. Yeah. All the dominoes always fall.
Well, they also removed him from the Ring of Honor at the stadium in Tampa Bay where he previously coached.
I just love the idea that a football person shouldn't be using boorish language or talking trash. It's is there any more really lowbrow area on earth than a jock locker room?
Well, they're expected to talk like diversity counselors.
Yeah. It's whatever her name is, Robin
Robin DiAngelo.
Robin DiAngelo. Yeah.
Right. No, but it's infected everything. I mean, because we're at the age now where all of these corporations and organizations that are now run by the same age cohort, they all went to Brown or whatever, and they're completely crazy.
Yeah, they have these standards that just it's not possible for anyone to live up to. But this NFL story, it reminds me, gosh, I was on Twitter. What was I don't want to get it wrong. The title of the story that I retweeted it, but it said that NFL cheerleaders blast league's sexist culture following topless email scandal. And I'm like, So your job is to wear skimpy clothing, and you're basically objectifying yourself, right? Which I don't have a problem with, but should you really be surprised and blast sexist culture when you are in fact part of that culture? Doesn't really make sense to me. Are you gentlemen too scared to weigh in because I'm the only fememale at the table?
Sure, let's go with that.
Or do you dare?
I mean, I don't have an opinion on cheerleaders. I don't really know anything about it.
I don't know anything about it.
I don't know if
we didn't get the cheerleaders.
Well,
in
but
high
it's
school.
just, I mean, but the females get it both ways because they get
of
to
course.
profit off of all of this, and then they get to go, oh my gosh, this is horrible. A sexist culture, I can't believe you.
Of course, I mean, I think I think it's important that to note that there's no point at which the hypocrisy there's no tripwire for the hypocrisy where it's like, oh man, we really screwed up this time. It's gotten too crazy and it makes no sense now.
Because it's not about hypocrisy.
They just keep going.
Because it's not about hypocrisy, it's about power.
Right.
It's like if I flip the script tomorrow, you're going to be wrong either today or tomorrow.
Right.
So as long as it matters, I'm the one who's in charge of who's getting hired and fired. So it's a great mechanism to maintain social control. Like the same term, colored person, which would have been correct 20 years ago, it switches, and now saying colored person is a huge offensive thing. So they keep changing the language because at some point you're going to say what had been correct at the time, and now you're vulnerable.
Well, or they just go back 20 years ago and say, oh, look, he used the term colored person, even though it was completely socially acceptable then.
Just wait until the cheerleaders union decides that they're going to be anti-vax mandate.
Right.
And then pretty soon they'll cancel the cheerleaders.
But look, that happened with healthcare workers. Last year, people were banging pots and pans.
Heroes.
These are heroes. Superman bowing down to them. Now, fire them. Their lives should be ruined. How dare they don't take the mandate? Don't these nurses and doctors know about medicine like I do, random Twitter person?
Meanwhile, man, there's a shortage of doctors and nurses. I don't know what.
Let's call it the National Guard, like in New York.
Right. It's the same thing. The borders are wide open. Nobody's COVID testing any of these people coming through, kids, adults, whatever. But it's like, yes, we're very concerned.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think the people. I mean, here's the white pill portion, which is I think the people see this, and increasingly they're just like this. This makes no sense.
Right. It can't both be true.
It can't both. It's completely absurd.
Yeah, I think so too. That's a good place to leave this segment. We've got more to come. First, we want to thank our sponsor this segment, Raycon. So Raycons are really great. I'm going to go ahead and tell you. So they're like earbuds that you put in your ear, but they are way better than their competitors because they don't have the stupid stems that come out of the ears.
Do you have some here? I ruined my headphones on the way here. They got caught in the car door. I'm not kidding.
Oh man, that's
they got
the worst.
shredded. I would love them.
Okay. We'll try to find you some.
Okay.
They're great.
I need some.
They're awesome. You can pick from several different colors.
I want all of your all the stuff that you're.
I'm telling you, I only provide the best for everyone.
Excellent.
But the worst guests. Best sponsors, worst guests.
That's just how we do it here. But Raycons, maybe you want to listen to music while you're working out or your favorite podcast, which happens to be the news and why it matters. I don't know. Whatever it is, you got to try Raycons. They are way less expensive than the competition and way more comfortable in your ear. They have 8 hours of playtime, 32-hour battery life. There's also a built-in mic in some of them. You can take calls on your earbuds just as you press the button. But I'm just going to tell you, I'm just going to warn you. If you have children, you're going to want to go ahead and get an extra pair because your children are going to steal your Raycons and then you will not have them when you want them. So just get two. Just a friendly word of advice. All right, right now you can get 15% off over at Raycon, buyraycon.com/Y. That's BUY, buyraycon.com/Y. All right, Facebook has announced that it is changing its rules to increase protections against harassment and bullying for journalists and activists. These are groups that the company considers to be, quote, involuntary public figures. And now the rules.
Linda Sarsour are very involuntary.
That's what I was like, this is going to be a good topic for these guys right now. So they're going to differentiate between how users can criticize public figures, private individuals. They're going to offer more protections for private individuals. For example, they say users may exaggerate and call for the death of a celebrity in posts on Facebook's website as long as they do not tag or directly mention that celebrity. But they are not allowed to call for the death of a private individual. So those same protections are being extended to journalists and human rights defenders.
Wait a minute.
That's what they call them.
So you can say, I'm going to murder, whatever, someone who's not alive, Doris Day.
Call for the death of a
Call
celebrity.
for the right.
Doris Day died?
Yeah. No, whatever. First thing,
You just ruined Michael's day.
yeah.
You ruined my Doris Day.
I'm sorry. I do that a lot. Yeah. No, so you could say, I want to murder, whatever, celebrity X.
Just say the sound bite so we could use it on Twitter. Say, I want to murder Doris Day.
Yes, exactly. Hope she was never born. Anyway, I mean,
I heard she's a Nazi.
Gosh.
No. But so you can say to your people,
Yeah.
which is basically into a small, echo chamber that disappears. I mean, that's more of a legitimate threat than tagging the person. Right?
Sure.
Like that to me is scarier because nobody else knows. You could be serious.
Right.
This is what it's
right.
about. It's that for the first time in history in the last 7 years, corporate journalists are being called on their crap, and they're being called on their crap to their face. And this is getting them scared
Furious.
and also intimidated. Because if you go in your office and it's like, hello, Mr. Olbermann, would you like some coffee, Mr. Olbermann? And then you go on this weird Twitter and people are telling you correctly you're a piece of garbage and you're making crazy videos talking down to the masses from a penthouse above Central Park, you're going to be disturbed and because it's a complete non sequitur from the rest of your day. So this is really great because I think anything that furthers the divide between the corporate press and the population is very healthy because they are not getting the input, the feedback from the masses, and at the same time they're hand wringing. They're like, what's going on? How come people don't trust us anymore? Well, if you're not being receptive to that criticism, which is warranted, and people despise you correctly, you're just going to keep doubling down and getting worse. And the greater this divide, the healthier it is for everyone as a country.
That's fair. I don't believe that it's going to be a decision that is going to be handed out at the same
Twitter,
rate, right?
correct.
Just like Twitter. I get death threats all the time. I'm sure you guys are no strangers to it as well.
I'm popular on Twitter. People like me. I'm more charismatic.
I don't get death threats. I don't get.
Well,
threats.
I just need to be more like
people saying
Michael.
nasty things, but no death threats. I think women get so much more.
It's true. Women get a lot more hate.
Horrible hate. Like seriously.
Why is that?
Because women are terrible, and their stupid opinions should not be on Twitter. They must be
So
stopped.
it was you that was sending me the stuff.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I signed it. Didn't you? And you signed for that bomb that I sent to your house, and I had your autograph on it.
Yesterday.
I thought you were Doris Day. I'm sorry. You look just like her, probably. I don't know.
Yesterday, this guy sends me a nasty email.
Yeah.
And the last line is, "Don't bother replying."
Of course.
Because I'm deactivating this email.
Okay.
Jeez.
What? Why?
Right. Well, people get on me all the time because I give it right back to them, and they're like, I see that you took the time to reply. You must not be very. I'm like, what do you expect?
Well, they think they're yelling at the TV,
Right.
so they
I'm
don't
a real
understand
person.
that someone is being able to. And I love ruining their day.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, it's
It
really
is-
fun.
I respond. I mean, you
I'm like,
have to
this-
use
nothing gives
them
me greater
as
pleasure.
objects.
As a
Yes.
foil. Yeah.
Yes.
You use them as a foil. Use them as an
You
object.
mean women or the people who criticize you?
Oh well, I mean, both.
Doris Day, man.
All right, we got to take a break. I don't want to get censored, so
Canceled.
I think that's a good place to take a break.
Throw the mug.
Hey, those of you who have not yet done so, maybe you're watching on YouTube, Pluto, BlazeTV, wherever you are watching this program, you got to go over using your Raycons while you listen to audio podcasts. Go over to wherever you get those audio podcasts. Subscribe, rate, and review The News and Why It Matters. Also, while you're there, you should check out Michael's podcast as well.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Yeah, I feel like I should. I just felt like I should plug you as well.
Thank you.
So you do both at once. It might take you 30 seconds to go do those things. Obviously give us 5 stars because we deserve no less than 5 stars. If you leave us a nice review, you also may see it read live on air, like the one today from Rob T-Dog, who says, "The news and why it's important. Sarah, you rock. The left was blocking your show, but finally got it to play. Amen. God bless. Always be nice." Well, I don't know if I can always be nice. I don't really feel like
That was
that's
your
my
mom.
thing. What? Rob T-Dog? That's not my mom's name.
under
That's her
assumed
gang
names.
name.
That's her gang name.
Well, I think she would cut someone just as soon as look at them.
Now, Rob T-Dog, I appreciate the review, but they did spell my name with an extra H that doesn't exist. Because I don't feel like that's my mom.
It has
because
two
my
H's.
No, it has no H's. It's only an extra letter. You don't need the H. So I know it's not my
Attention
mom.
to detail, Rob T-Dog.
I'm just saying I know it's not my mom.
Yeah.
All I'm saying.
What a great fan of the show.
All I'm saying.
It's written above the review.
Don't forget, not only should you subscribe to Michael's podcast, also don't forget to subscribe to Dave's Substack. It is Late Republic Nonsense. And also go read that article on the national divorce because it was great. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much, Sarah.
Appreciate it.
That's her name, right, Sarah?